It's not a good buff. It's not. How the heck are you guys? At long last, Elder is getting a buff. That is right. It has been announced on the Forerunner server where I am logged in as well. Over here right now, big shout out to my buddy Chris, aka Behemoth. And yeah, it's confirmed. He's getting a buff. Now, is this going to be an amazing buff? No. No, it's not. Prepare to be whelmed. I think for certain content, he will be better. He's certainly not going to be worse in any way. But this is not elevating him into a legendary lord you're not disappointed to pull. He's not bad, but you'll see. I've spent the last 20, 30 minutes comparing and contrasting every change. They don't do the thing they normally do where they're like, before it was this, now it is this. So I'm going to have to piece it together and show you, but I'm prepared. Let's hop into it. Elder is getting a buff, and this is something a lot of people wanted. I think you should be happy that it's here and he's better, but you should be disappointed because it's not that good. So let's go. The main thing, he has now been enhanced to become an AoE fighter. He is no longer a single target unit. He's an AoE fighter. Additionally, his attack range will be increased to 2 tiles ahead. So currently, Elder is not an AoE unit. This is a big change. He is very much a single target unit, and his attack range is a singular tile. Getting that second tile alone makes him a lot more viable for a lot more things. And a very cool thing, they're making him an AoE unit without nerfing any of his DPS, except for one key thing. But they're not scaling anything back in terms of the actual damage output per hit. So that's pretty neat. He's going to be a lot better in that regard. He's going to impress you more. You did see that I said there's one thing. The damage per hit will be the same, but the hits will be less frequent. You can see right now, Elder has a 2.6 second base attack interval. With some good gear, you can bring this down to 1.6 seconds, 1.5 seconds, 1.4 seconds, 1.3 seconds. Without that much effort, with good gear, you can cut this thing in half currently to 1.3 seconds. They are increasing, so they are nerfing his base attack interval, I guess to compensate for the other changes and the fact that he's an AoE unit now, and they are increasing it by 0.9 seconds. That is a lot. It's going to be 3.5 seconds. That base attack interval is not going to scale well. With some solid gear, you'll get this down to 2.0. With good gear, you can get it down to 1.8. If you want him to be a speed demon, you could get 1.7, but that's pretty drastic. That's a pretty freaking big change. So yes, he will be hitting more units as an AoE hero now. That is better. And yes, you'll see with some of the other skills, he's going to put out some more damage. But these hits, the damage, it will be less frequent. So all in all, I think a lot of people will be whelmed. I don't think you're going to feel a huge difference. There'll be a couple pieces of content you're impressed by it. But all in all, I just think you can tell I'm not impressed. Let's actually talk about the fighters in this game. Is it typical to have a 3.5 second base attack interval? No, not at all. Not at all. Not even a little. The only unit I found, and I didn't check every fighter, but I checked some first AoE units that come to mind. The only unit I found that has a 3.5 second base attack interval is Uridin over here. Uridin is kind of an infamous unit. He's better than people think at this point because people think he sucks, but people think he sucks because he disappointed them because he wasn't that good. We expected him to be phenomenal, myself included. I was very disappointed on his release. I thought he was going to be a god. He's a BP god for GVG, but part of the reason he underwhelms people is this attack interval. He doesn't get as many hits out as you would expect. He doesn't build rage as quickly as you'd expect because he's kind of a slowpoke. You might be saying, oh, well, he's an AoE unit now. AoE units just probably have higher base attack intervals. That is not true. Not at all. Ardia here, obviously she's like one of the goddesses of the game, but she has a 2.4 second base attack interval. If we go to Volca over here, this is a classic AoE unit, 2.4 second attack interval. How about someone maybe closer to Elder? Yes, it's magic damage, but this is a Northerner. We have got Valkyra over here, 2.5 seconds. Even single target units, I mean, they're all around the 2.6, so it's pretty freaking rare. If we go to the true goddess of the game right now, she's technically not a fighter, but she kind of is for certain things. Valara, 2.6 seconds. So Elder's going to hit, for 1/5 the damage of Valara, maybe less than that, and his attack interval is 0.9 seconds more. So I just don't see what justified this. And you'll see there's not enough extra added damage. Let's show one more. Here we got Ymerit, 2.6 seconds. It's just not a thing. It is just not a thing, right? It's basically Uridan. I'm sure there might be one or two other examples that I didn't think of, but I mean, here you go. Valderon, 2.6. I guess we're showing a few more. Rygar, 2.6. I don't get it. And I think this kind of puts a real ceiling on what he could be. And that being said, even if they kept it at 2.6, I don't think they added enough other damage and changes. So let's continue now and let's work our way through. So the key things just to highlight, the base attack interval went up from 2.6 to 3.5 seconds. That is effectively a nerf, I guess. But then buffed, he gets the increased range from 1 tile ahead to 2 tiles ahead, and he gets the AoE DPS. So let's actually start with that as we continue. There's no change to his Lord skill, though I will say he personally will benefit from his Lord skill more. We'll talk about that when we get into his passives. But if we start with his basic attack, it's the same damage, but now he's hitting 5 enemies. Yes, it's less frequent because the speed of the basic attacks is scaling off the base attack interval, but that is pretty cool. Right now, it's 100% damage. With skill ups, goes to 120%, hitting 1 enemy. Now he's got the 2 tile range, and he can hit up to 5 enemies. So it's not a crazy AoE, but it's the same as someone like Eris or Valkyra. You know, a lot of those guys hit 5 with their basic attack. That's like the baseline. He's doing physical damage, but you get it. You get it. So let's continue on to the next thing. We're going to talk about the talent. Nothing here changed. So this is where it kind of seems like they did more than they actually did in reality. This talent is identical. When the hero has a shield, dealing damage grants extra damage equal to 30% of the current shield strength. He is able to put on more shields. You might be able to scale them a little bit higher, but the talent itself, when shielded, deals extra damage equal to 30% of current shield strength. It is completely unchanged. Let's go now to the ultimate. This is called Thunder Incarnation. Attack increases from 30% up to 50% depending on skill ups, and then the hero gains an effect called Thunder Aegis. Allies of the same faction on the battlefield temporarily gain Elder's talent. The ultimate lasts 20 seconds. Here we got a mini nerf, though they effectively buffed Thunder Aegis. We're about to talk about that. However, one thing was taken out of his ultimate. Previously, he would increase his attack by 30% up to 50% with skill ups, but he would also increase his max HP by 30% up to 50% with skill ups. That is gone now, right? The max HP increase. So that's the only other negative thing they did to him, the nerf, the drawback, but they are keeping everything else the same. So he's going to increase his attack, he's going to gain Thunder Aegis, and then he grants allies of the same faction, aka Northerners, his talent temporarily. So if they're shielded, they're also going to start dealing extra damage, scaling off of the shield strength of the shield they're wearing at the moment, right? Thunder Aegis, though, has been changed. So let's talk about that now. You can see Thunder Aegis now is going to be, he gains a shield equal to 20% of the hero's attack per second, up to a maximum shield equal to 200% of attack. So depending on what the attack you build on him is, every second he's getting another stack equal to 20% of that attack. He can get 10 stacks. And this is going to last 20 seconds, right? It lasts the duration of the ultimate. So if no one is chipping away at that shield, it's going to be pretty dang good. And you'll see with his awakening, he can now lend that shield from Thunder Aegis to directly adjacent allies. We'll cover that in one moment. But previously, Thunder Aegis, you can see here, he would gain a shield equal to 10% of his max HP per second. This stacked up to 100% of his max HP. So it depends how you're going to build him. The problem was they made Elder, with the way he is currently, pre-buff Elder, they made him pretty stat hungry. They kind of envisioned him as like a tank that also is dealing damage, but the damage was scaling off of attack, so it just wasn't making sense. Now they're saying he's not a tank anymore. Everything's scaling off of attack. He will still get shields because that's going to boost his kit through his passives and stuff like that, through his Lord skill, but everything's going to scale off of attack. So if we look at those base stats, they're incredibly high, right? He has basically exactly 30,000 base HP. So you could have built him with 100,000 HP or more, but let's say it's 100,000. That means you get a shield of 100,000 hit points. Obviously, you can't achieve that now. But he does have pretty high base attack at 6257, so you could pretty comfortably build him with like 20,000 base attack. So if you're getting a shield worth 200% of that, it's going to be about 40,000 shield. So it is a lot less, but it's more in line with the stats he needs. So overall, I'd say the change to Thunder Aegis is positive, but it's very underwhelming. There's no reason this couldn't be 30% of his attack per stack or 40%, and it goes up to 400 of his attack at the maximum shield. because it's not going to be a big enough shield to lend extra DPS from the other parts of his kit. From the talent over here, and then when he's lending that talent to allies, 30% of the shield strength. If the shield is 40,000 hit points, if you max that thing out, 30% of that is going to be 12,000. So 12,000 extra damage is certainly not nothing, but it's not that much. You're not going to notice it in any hard content, really. And keep in mind, it's only when he's dealing damage, and he's kind of a slowpoke now. So it is something. I do think it's an improvement, but I think it's very whelming. I've said that twice now. That's the third time. I will keep saying it. This is just this is a fart. Let's be honest. This is not that cool. Let's continue on now. We talked about his special effect Thunder Aegis. We talked about the ultimate. Let's go to the first passive now. We've got a new thing here, so this is cool. So the first part remains the same. Basic attacks will have a chance to trigger Thunder Hammer, and when you trigger Thunder Hammer, it's additional damage. That's exactly what the passive is right now. Storm of Retribution, basic attacks have a 15% chance, with skill ups 20% chance to trigger Thunder Hammer, and when you trigger that, it's going to be 200% extra damage, with skill ups 250% extra damage. However, they did add an extra line, and the extra line's pretty cool. It's not, changing the world, but it's something. If he has no shield, whenever he triggers a Thunder Hammer, he has a 40% chance to gain a shield equal to 50% of his attack for 10 seconds. So, this is going to help him deal more damage more consistently, right? But if he already had a shield, this is going to be a small shield, and it probably won't replace it. If we do the math now, 50% of his attack, if you build him with 20,000 attack, is a 10,000 shield, 10,000 hit point shield. That's not that good. It does last a very long time, but it's somewhat inconsistent to trigger, because it's 40%, basically a 50-50 whenever I trigger a Thunder Hammer. But even with skill ups, only 20% of the time, 1/5 of his attacks are going to trigger a Thunder Hammer. Does last a while, but this will be very inconsistent, very RNG, and the shield itself is not that big. But this is a wholly extra thing. It was not in the kit before. It was actually hidden away over here in a sense. It's slightly different, but it was kind of hidden into his awakening. When he wasn't shielded, when he would trigger Thunder Hammer, he would get the shield. Now it's not an awakening, but whenever he triggers Thunder Hammer, there's nearly a 50-50, a 40% chance he's going to get a shield. Now it's scaling off of attack. Previously, it was an awakening, and it was scaling off of HP. It's a slight improvement, but it's not enough. And again, extra damage, 30% of a 10,000 hit point shield. It's 3,000 extra damage per hit. I mean, that's literally nothing for any content. Maybe for early progression stuff, you might feel the effect, but I just don't think it's enough. Now, the next passive, Thunder Protection. When taking damage, he gains a shield equal to 40%, scaling up to 60% with skill ups of max HP, and a damage increase that is 20% goes up to 30% for 10 seconds. This effect can be triggered one time every 40 seconds, goes down to 35 seconds. This is wholly unchanged. This is identical. So when you take damage, he's going to get a shield. It is scaling off of HP, so everything else in his kit now scales off of attack, except for this. Can go up to 60% of his HP. His HP still is very high, his base HP. So you could build a lot of HP on him, but you probably won't. He probably won't have more than 40,000 HP, maybe 50, depending on random builds. Increased damage by 30% with max skill ups, last 10 seconds. You can trigger this every 35 seconds. It is identical. It is completely mediocre. Completely and utterly mediocre. The Lord skill, like I said, is the same. The first bit is identical to King Hearts, and the last bit is what Elder has always had. Any shielded faction team members will have their attack increased by 20%. That's pretty good. It helps with more DPS. Hearts does the same thing, but it's increasing the defense by 20%. The good news for him, selfishly, is he's shielded a lot more, so he's going to benefit from that extra 20% attack more when he's the Lord for himself. But as you can see, they didn't add enough layers of extra damage to justify him being slower just because he's hitting more units. The better attack range is really nice. The extra units is very nice. The slight changes in damage and calibrating shields off of attack instead of HP is nice, but then they left stuff like this in where the shield's still off HP. And all in all, the shields aren't big enough to make the talent that strong, and the extra damage boosts are not that big. And things like this with the Thunder Hammer, it's too RNG. I would have loved to see them increase this, that the base chance is 25%, and then with skill ups, it's 35% or 40%, not 15 to 20. I don't like that part still being the same, because It's just not enough. Like, it really isn't. It's too inconsistent, and the damage is just not there. I don't think he's going to be bad. Like, could you run him on the bottom of Gear Dungeon 2? Maybe. It's not live on the test server or Forerunner yet, the new buff. When it is, I definitely want to test him there. That was like the first use case that popped into my mind. But he's not going to be like super top tier AoE DPS. Like, not at all. You're still going to be disappointed when you pull this guy because it could have been Ingrid or Praetus or Soul Cadens or Cyrus or Torador or Nastia, or I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, he's still pretty bottom of the barrel, in my opinion. So let's take it home with the Awakenings. We briefly discussed the A1. They kind of folded the A1 into the rest of the Storm Retribution passive. So the new A1 is going to be the following, and it's solid. During the ultimate, allied heroes within one tile, so any directly adjacent tiles, will gain half the Thunder Aegis effect. Remember, Thunder Aegis is during the ultimate. Every second, he's going to get 20% of his attack added as a shield. So for him, it could be like a 40,000 hit point shield. So for directly adjacent allies, if they're not having that shield chipped away by other damage, you're talking about what, maximum 20,000 additional HP. This could be good maybe if you want to try to get Northerner to work in Abyss. This could be something. You could use him as your tank, but it's like, how do you justify using him as a tank just because of some random decent shielding, but not exceptional shielding? But then you're missing out on like the vulnerabilities and the defense break of an Ares, or certainly a Magmus right now. A1 Magmus is very popular, or just bringing Torador, right? I mean, it's something, maybe again for progression, but I don't think this is the coolest thing in the world, but it's an improvement over the previous A1 since we basically got the previous A1 folded into that passive. The A3, this is cool. They just buffed it. So during the ultimate, Thunderhammer's trigger chance is increased by 40%. So the base is 20% with max skill ups. Now it goes up to 60 during the ultimate. So pretty reliable, but still not guaranteed. You could make it fully guaranteed and it would not be anything close to OP. It is better than what it used to be though. The increase used to be 20%. So it went from 20 at max skill ups to 40 with A3. Now it goes from 20 to 60. It should just be increased by 80%. It should just become 100% chance that it happens, right? Finally, the A5 is completely unchanged. Thunderhammer deals extra damage equal to 30% of current shield strength. We've kind of gone over that's not that much damage, and this is tied strictly to the Thunderhammer, which is only triggering 20% of the time. By the time you have A5, when he ults at 60% of the time, it's not enough extra damage, and I'll just show you here. It is identical. Thunderhammer deals extra damage equal to 30% of current shield strength. All in all, can you tell what I think of this buff? I don't like it. It was so hyped. They didn't announce a date, but they first teased it a few months ago, and then this is what they come out with. He is now going to be an acceptable AoE unit in this game. And unless I'm misreading something, that is it. So I think people would have loved to try to see Northerner become relevant against bosses. He's not going to be any better against bosses, right? He's slower, and who cares about AoE against a single target boss? We're really thinking of like Abyss, Apox, stuff like that. He's certainly not going to be worse, I don't think, except for content where you don't need AoE. Then he kind of will be worse because he's just a slowpoke. But all in all, I'm disappointed by the attack interval change going from 2.6 to 3.5. They could have kept it at 2.6, and he would be like, it'd be better, but he still wouldn't be anywhere close to OP. As it stands now, I feel like they transitioned him to an AoE unit, but his overall, he's not going to feel like he hits any harder. He's just going to hit more things, but hit them at a slower rate, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. It's not a good buff. It's not. So there you go. I've been Fastidious. If you have any questions, concerns, if you think I missed something, let me know in the comment section below. There's a lot of stuff to break down these next few days, so stay tuned. 2 new heroes coming out. They're officially going live on the test server tomorrow, so that'll be a lot of fun. Neza, and of course, Erlong Shen. Thank you. Share with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.